The Project for the New American Century, PNAC, was a neoconservative think tank based in Washington, D.C. that focused on United States foreign policy. PNAC's stated goal was to promote American global leadership. The organization stated that American leadership is good both for America and for the world, and sought to build support for a Reaganite policy of military strength and moral clarity. Of the 25 people who signed PNAC's founding statements of principles, 10 went on to serve in the administration of U.S. President George W. Bush, including Dick Cheney, Donald Rumsfeld, and Paul Wolfowitz. One of the PNAC's most influential publications was a 90-page report titled Rebuilding America's Defenses: Strategies, Forces, and Resources for a New Century. Citing the PNAC's 1997 Statement of Principles, Rebuilding America's Defenses asserted that the United States should seek to preserve and extend its position of global leadership by maintaining the preeminence of U.S. military forces. A section of Rebuilding America's Defenses entitled Creating Tomorrow's Dominant Force became the subject of considerable controversy. Quote, further, the process of transformation, even if it brings revolutionary change, is likely to be a long one, absent some catastrophic and catalyzing event, like a new Pearl Harbor. End quote. On the morning of Tuesday, September 11th, 2001, 4 coordinated terrorist attacks killed 2,996 people, injured over 6,000 others, and caused at least $10 billion in infrastructure and property damage. 4 passenger airliners operated by 2 major U.S. passenger air carriers, United Airlines and American Airlines, all of which departed from airports in the northeastern United States bound for California, were hijacked by 19 terrorists. 2 of the planes, American Airlines Flight 11 and United Airlines Flight 175, were crashed into the north and south towers, respectively, of the World Trade Center complex in Lower Manhattan. Within an hour and 42 minutes, both 110-story towers collapsed. Debris and the resulting fires caused a partial or complete collapse of all other buildings in the World Trade Center complex, including the 47-story World Trade Center Tower 7, as well as significant damage to 10 other large surrounding structures. A third plane, American Airlines Flight 77, was crashed into the Pentagon, the headquarters of the U.S. Department of Defense, in Arlington County, Virginia, which led to a partial collapse of the building's west side. The fourth plane, United Airlines Flight 93, was initially flown toward Washington, D.C., but crashed into a field in Stony Creek Township near Shanksville, Pennsylvania, after its passengers allegedly thwarted the hijackers. Suspicion quickly fell on Al-Qaeda. The United States responded by launching the War on Terror and invading Afghanistan to depose the Taliban, which had failed to comply with U.S. demands to extradite Osama bin Laden and expel al-Qaeda from Afghanistan. Many countries strengthened their anti-terrorism legislation and expanded the powers of law enforcement and intelligence agencies to prevent terrorist attacks. The USA Patriot Act, commonly known as the Patriot Act, is an act of the U.S. Congress that was signed into law by President George W. Bush on October 26, 2001. The title of the act is a contrived three-letter initialism, USA, preceding a 7-letter acronym, PATRIOT, which in combination stand for Uniting and Strengthening America by Providing Appropriate Tools Required to Intercept and Obstruct Terrorism Act of 2001. In response to the September 11th attacks and the 2001 anthrax attacks, Congress swiftly passed legislation to strengthen national security. On October 23, 2001, Republican Representative Jim Sensenbrenner introduced H.R. 3162, incorporating provisions from a previously sponsored House bill and a Senate bill also introduced earlier in the month. The next day, the act passed the House by a vote of 357 to 66, with Democrats comprising the overwhelming portion of dissent. The 3 Republicans voting no were Robert Ney of Ohio, Butch Otter of Idaho, and Ron Paul of Texas. On October 25th, the act passed the Senate by a 98-1 vote, the only dissent being Russ Feingold of Wisconsin. Those opposing the law have criticized its authorization of indefinite detentions of immigrants, the permission given to law enforcement to search a home or business without the owner's or the occupant's consent or knowledge, the expanded use of national security letters, which allows the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, to search telephone, email, and financial records without a court order, and the expanded access of law enforcement agencies to business records, including library and financial records. Since its passage, several legal challenges have been brought against the Act, and federal courts have ruled that a number of provisions are unconstitutional. Many of the Act's provisions were to sunset beginning December 31st, 2005, approximately 4 years after its passage. In the months preceding the sunset date, supporters of the Act pushed to make its sunsetting provisions permanent, while critics sought to revise various sections to enhance civil liberty protections. In July 2005, the U.S. Senate passed a reauthorization bill with substantial changes to several of the Act's sections, while the House reauthorization bill kept most of the Act's original language. The 2 bills were then reconciled in a conference committee, criticized by senators from both the Republican and Democratic parties for ignoring civil liberty concerns. The bill, which removed most of the changes from the Senate version, passed Congress on March 2, 2006, and was signed by President Bush on March 9th and 10th of that year. On May 26, 2011, President Barack Obama signed the Patriot Sunsets Extension Act of 2011, a 4-year extension of 3 key provisions in the Act: roving wiretaps, searches of business records, and conducting surveillance of, quote, lone wolves, or individuals suspected of terrorist-related activities not linked to terrorist groups. Following a lack of congressional approval, parts of the Patriot Act expired on June 1st, 2015. With passing the USA Freedom Act on June 2nd, 2015, the expired parts were restored and renewed through 2019. However, Section 215 of the law was amended to stop the National Security Agency, NSA, from continuing its mass phone data collection program. Instead, phone companies will retain the data, and the NSA can obtain information about targeted individuals with permission from a federal court.